The Lion and the Mouse. The Vengeance of the Baroness of London. Stop scrolling. You are about to witness the most ruthless financial takedown in a decade. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you will not believe what happens when the mouse you cornered turns out to be a lion. Not just hungry, but the alpha of an entire pride. The shocking hook. The price of arrogance. What happens when the mouse you've backed into a corner turns out to be a lion? Not just hungry, but the alpha of an entire pride. For Elsa Vance, it was a quiet, modest, low-profile dream, until her husband's mistress, Serafina Hayes, decided it was time to destroy her. The plan was public, to humiliate the pathetic, weeping wife at the most important social event on the London calendar, the National Gallery's annual Grand Charity Gala. But Serafina made one mistake, a catastrophic one. She assumed Elsa was alone. She didn't know that Elsa's simplicity was a choice. She had no idea of the truth hiding behind that adopted married name. She didn't know whose bloodline Elsa carried. Tonight, at the historic National Gallery Gala, the arrogance of new money is about to collide head-on with ancient, ruthless power. A name whispered only in the financial circles of Zurich and Frankfurt is about to be screamed from the rooftops of the English capital. Stay with us for a story of brutal betrayal, meticulous revenge, and a revelation so shocking it is about to burn an empire to the ground. Chapter 1: The Scent of the Lie. The lie didn't have a sound. It had a smell. It was Baccarat Rouge 540, an opulent, unmistakable fragrance that clung with obscene persistence to the lapel of her husband's cashmere overcoat. It was the scent of saffron, jasmine, and burnt sugar, the olfactory signature of a woman trying too hard to be noticed, to leave an indelible mark. Elsa Vance, by contrast, preferred the quiet, papery aroma of antique books or the light, clean smell of lemon verbena soap, a reminiscence of her European childhood. She stood in the massive white marble foyer of their penthouse on Kensington High Street, the costly, heavy coat in her hands. Jasper hadn't just come home late. He had come home different for months. The man she married, the ambitious, charming, self-made founder of Vance Capital, had been fading. He was an elegant ghost in their 10-room apartment, a polite stranger who checked his phone beneath the dinner table, his thumb scrolling with a furtive, obsessive speed that chilled her soul. "Jasper," she called out. Her voice was soft and immediately swallowed by the sterile, cavernous architecture of the apartment. He emerged from his study, already loosening his Brioni silk tie. "Long day, Elsa. It's been a really long day. Markets are brutal." He kissed her, a dry, papery brush on the cheek. He didn't smell the perfume himself, but Elsa did. It was a specter, a third person in their marriage. "You smell different," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. It was the boldest thing she had said in months. Jasper froze. His eyes, usually a warm hazel, went flat and cold. This was the Jasper his partner saw, the man who had built a $300 million firm from nothing. This was not her Jasper. "What?" "The perfume. Jasper, it's not mine." She watched the calculation in his eyes. He performed a quick, silent algebra. Deny, feign ignorance, attack. He chose a devastating mix of all three. He sighed, a sound of deep irritation, as if she were to blame for his exhaustion. "Elsa, no, I do not have the energy for your insecurity tonight." Insecurity. The word was a slap. She had supported him, edited his prospectuses, hosted his unbearable clients, and given up her own quiet ambitions in historical research to be the supportive wife his publicist recommended. Yes, insecurity. Then he finally shed the coat, tossing it onto a sterile IMS chair. "I met with a client. She's a perfume designer. Is this it? Are you accusing me? I'm not accusing. I'm asking. Who is she? Jasper laughed. A sharp, ugly sound. It doesn't matter who she is. It matters to me. He stepped closer to her, and Elsa, despite herself, stepped back. He had never been physically violent, but his new, cold aura was a weapon in itself. You want to know? Fine. Do you really want to ruin our night? Okay. He ran a hand through his perfectly coiffed hair. It's Serafina Hayes. You know her. The Mayfair gallerist. Elsa's stomach hollowed out. She remembered Serafina. Pure arrogance. Bright red lips, and a laugh that sounded like cracking glass. She had dismissed her as a social climber, a flashy accessory in the art world. Are you sleeping with her, Jasper? She said the word, a simple, brutal fact. I am, and I'm in love with her, Elsa. I'm not in love with you anymore. The words just hung in the cold, white foyer, sucking all the air from the room. Elsa leaned against the wall. The smooth, cold marble was a shock to her system. She didn't cry yet. No, she was too numb. Since when? 6 months. 6 months. She thought of the dinners she had cooked, the nights she had waited up, the supposed client emergencies. I want a divorce, he said, walking past her towards the bar for a 25-year-old Macallan. He didn't even offer her one. Divorce? She repeated. I've been fair, more than fair. He pulled a thick, cream-colored envelope from his briefcase. My lawyer, Robert Harrison, drew it up. It's generous. You keep your car. You get a lump sum sufficient to get a nice flat in the city center. You'll be comfortable. She opened the envelope. Her hands trembled. The generous sum was a fraction of what he was worth. It was a severance package. It was an insult. It was designed for the mousy wife he thought she was, a woman with no family, no connections, and no resources of her own. A woman who had arrived in London with 2 suitcases and a quiet passion for medieval manuscripts, and who had been saved by him. This is what I'm worth to you? 12 years? This is fair, he snapped back. This is what my lawyer says. You're not getting a penny of my company, Elsa. You signed the prenups, remember? She did remember. She had signed them without reading them, believing in their love story. The gala is in 2 weeks, she whispered, the thought hitting her like a stray bullet. The National Gallery Gala was the peak of the London social calendar. This year, Jasper's firm was a major sponsor. It was meant to be his moment, his arrival. Yes, Jasper said, downing his whiskey. And I'm going with Serafina. That's when the first tear fell. It was a tear of pure, unadulterated humiliation. Please don't, he pleaded. The shame, the embarrassment. He laughed again. Shame is being married to someone who is satisfied. Serafina isn't satisfied. She's hungry. She's alive. I'm building an empire, Elsa, and I need an empress, not a librarian. He adjusted his cuffs. Robert will be in touch. I'll be staying at the Mandarin Oriental Hyde Park until you move out. You have 2 weeks until the gala. Be gone by then. It's cleaner that way. He walked to the door, picked up his coat, the one that still smelled of his new life, and left. Elsa Vance sank onto the cold marble floor, the heavy cream envelope beside her. She was alone, 50 stories above the city, in a glass cage she had mistaken for a home. And finally, she truly began to weep. She wept for the man she had loved, for the life she had built, and for the devastating public execution he had just scheduled. How would you have reacted to Jasper's cruel words about the Empress and the librarian? Would you fight or simply vanish? Tell us below. Chapter 2. The Wish. Empress Serafina Hayes lived her life in hashtags. Winning, savage life, power couple. She was currently at the Chiltern Firehouse. The clatter of plates and animated conversations, the perfect soundtrack to her victory. She raised her champagne flute to her two friends, fellow gallerists more versed in social currency than actual art. "To the Empress," she toasted, her crimson-painted lips curving into a triumphant smile. "So, you actually did it?" one asked, wide-eyed. "He dumped Ghost Beige?" "Ghost Beige!" Serafina cackled, a sharp, loud sound that made a nearby table turn. "I love that. And yes, he handed her the papers last night. Said she just crumbled." "God, Serafina, you're brutal," the other friend said with open admiration. "She was always at those dinners, just sitting there like a potted plant," Serafina insisted. "A sad, wilting potted plant," Serafina countered, leaning in. "She was an anchor on him. Jasper Vance is a titan. He's a shark, and he was married to a sardine. Can you imagine? Her at the National Gallery Gala? What would she have worn? Marks and Spencer?" Serafina, for her part, had just returned from a final fitting with her couturier. Her gown was an exclusive designer creation, a liquid crimson column completely backless, held up by what looked like sheer willpower and a string of diamonds. It was a dress designed to be photographed. It was a dress designed to announce her arrival. She had courted Jasper Vance for a year. She had accidentally bid against him at a charity auction. She had cornered him at an event in Soto Grande and made herself an indispensable consultant for his firm's new art collection. She had studied Elsa and seen nothing. No ambition, no fire, no named family. Elsa was a blank slate, an orphan from somewhere in Europe who got lucky. Serafina saw herself as a liberator, rescuing Jasper from a life of quiet, dull mediocrity. And the Kensington penthouse? He's giving her 2 weeks to clear out her dusty old books and her tweed jackets. By the time we walk that red carpet, the locks will be changed. We fly to Ibiza the morning after. The penthouse will be fumigated and redecorated by the time we return. And the money? He's giving her a pittance? Serafina waved her hand dismissively. The prenups were ironclad. Robert Harrison handled it. Jasper's lawyer is a killer. She'll be lucky if she can afford a studio in Peckham, which is where she belongs, frankly. Her phone buzzed. It was Jasper. She put him on speaker, a performance gesture for her friends. "My goddess," Jasper's voice, thick with infatuation, filled the air. "Hello, darling," she purred. "Just having brunch with the girls. We're toasting your freedom." How is she?" Jasper asked, his voice slightly wavering. Serafina rolled her eyes. "Who?" "Oh, her. I don't know, Jasper. Probably packing. Don't go soft now. You did the right thing." "It was messy, of course it was messy, baby," Serafina cooed, her voice weaponized honey. "Divorce is ugly, but think about the gala. Think about us. That's the first day of our real life. You, me, and that massive sponsorship plaque in the main hall. Vance Capital is going to be glorious." "You're right," he said, his voice firming up. "You're always right. The board is thrilled you're coming. I've already updated the seating chart." "I'll be on your right, where I belong," Serafina said, taking a sip of champagne. "I have to run now. I have a meeting with the Spectator for a pre-gala feature. The New Faces of London Philanthropy." She hung up with a triumphant smirk on her face. "The Spectator!" squealed her friend. "Well, the Spectator online," Serafina conceded. "But it's a start. By the time I'm done, Queen Camilla herself will be asking me for a +1 pass." She looked at her reflection in the restaurant's gilded mirror. She saw the future. She saw the penthouse, the private jet, the name. Serafina Vance. She saw it all seized from a woman she regarded as nothing more than collateral damage, a ghost beige about to be exorcised forever. "I almost feel sorry for her," she said, pulling a newly engraved Cartier case from her crocodile handbag. "Losing everything, and then having to watch me walk into her life on the biggest stage in the world. That must hurt." She reapplied her red lipstick. "I really hope she's watching. I want her to see exactly what she lost." Reader, pause. What do you think of Serafina's arrogance? Do you think fate is about to hit back? Leave us a comment with your revenge prediction, and don't forget to share this story in your WhatsApp groups. Black Pawn, Chapter 3. The error in the algebra. For 3 days, Elsa existed in a state of suspended animation. The penthouse, once her sanctuary, now felt like a mausoleum. The silence was deafening, broken only by the hum of the air conditioning and the distant sirens of the city that had rejected her. She packed. She started in the library, her true home inside the glass box. She wrapped her 19th century copies of Goethe, her collections of Rilke, her research notes on Carolingian scriptoriums. These were her things. Everything else, the bespoke Italian furniture, the sterile white artwork Jasper had purchased, the wardrobes full of clothes he had suggested she wear, was just a costume. Jasper had been right. She was a librarian at heart. She had tried to be the empress he wanted, but the crown had never fit. By the 4th day, the numbness cracked, and anger set in. It wasn't just betrayal. It was disrespect. It was the assumption that she was nothing without him, that he had created her and could just as easily erase her. He had forgotten who she was before him because she had allowed him to forget. When she met Jasper Vance at a university fundraiser 12 years ago, she was a quiet, unnoticed 24-year-old postgraduate student. He was a 30-year-old dynamo, all American ambition and optimism. He had loved her quiet European composure. She had loved his normality. He came from a solid, middle-class family from Toledo, Ohio. He was building his own life. He was not like the world she had fled. She had fled a world of suffocating dynastic wealth, a world of expectation, security details, marriages that were mergers, and a surname that opened every door but locked her inside. She had wanted to be Elsa. Just Elsa. Now, just Elsa was being kicked out of her home in London by a man with a midlife crisis and a social climber. The irony was so bitter, it almost made her laugh. She walked to her desk. Tucked into the back of a locked drawer beneath her old university dissertation was a small, discreet, black moleskin notebook. It wasn't digital. It wasn't smart. It contained only 10 numbers, written in her neat, archival quality hand. Her fingers trembled as she traced the page. She hadn't called any of these numbers in 3 years, not since her grandmother's last disappointed call. She skipped the first 6 numbers. Her uncle, her aunt, her cousins. She went to the 9th number. It was listed under a simple professional name, K. Hildebrand. She picked up her mobile phone, the one Jasper paid for, an insult she would soon correct, and dialed the long international code. It rang once, twice. A voice answered as dry and precise as a legal document. "Ja, Herr Hildebrand," Elsa said. Her voice cracked. She cleared her throat. "Klaus, it's me. It's Elsa." There was a pause. Not of surprise, but of assessment. Klaus Hildebrand had been her family's chief of security and later its chief of operations since before she was born. He was a man of absolute loyalty and zero sentimentality. Fräulein Elsa, he said. The formal address felt strange. It has been 98 days. Are you well? The simple question did what Jasper's cruelty could not. It broke her. A sob tore through her chest. No, Klaus, I am not well. I am very unwell. She told him everything. The affair, the mistress, the divorce papers, the gala, the humiliation, the generous offer. Hildebrand listened without interruption. The silence on the other end of the line was not empty. It was heavy, like a storm building. When she finished, his voice was level. He said only one thing. The Baroness was correct. He was a weak investment. Klaus, I made a terrible mistake. I thought I could be normal. I thought I could be weak. You are a von Adler, Fräulein, he stated, as if reminding her of her blood type. You are not permitted to be weak, only discreet. This man has forced your hand. What do you require? Elsa looked at the National Gallery gala invitation, still on the foyer table. It was addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Jasper Vance. A new feeling was taking root in her. It was cold, and it was sharp, and it felt terrifyingly like home. I require a legal team. Her voice hardened. Not a London team, a Zurich team. I want Hamburger to review these papers, and I want them to look into Vance Capital deeply. It is done, Hildebrand said. I opened the file when you emailed me your wedding photos 12 years ago. We have been monitoring Vance Capital's exposure as a matter of routine. Elsa blinked. Of course they had. Secondly, she continued, standing taller, I need you to book a reservation at the Ritz, London. A suite, tonight. The presidential suite is available. I shall secure it for 3 weeks. Very good. Jasper is staying there. I would like him moved to a lesser room, or perhaps a hotel in Peckham. You decide. I shall handle it. And finally, Elsa took a breath. The gala in 2 weeks. I was uninvited. I would like to be re-invited, and I need an escort. This time, Hildebrand almost chuckled. It was a dry, rasping sound. Escorts, Fräulein. No, you will not attend with an escort. You will attend with a delegation. The von Adler Group is, after all, the principal anonymous subscriber to the museum's entire Flemish painting wing, a fact I believe the chairman of the board, Mr. Davies, is well aware of. I will make the call. They will be delighted. Who shall I send? Your Uncle Wilhelm is in London. Your cousin, Count Nicholas, is in Washington. They can be in London for that night. They will make persuasive company. Family. She thought of her uncle, Baron Wilhelm von Adler, the head of the family bank, a man who made central bankers tremble, and her cousin Nicholas, a rogue, handsome aristocrat who ran the family's most aggressive acquisitions and had all the moral flexibility of a Medici prince. Yes, Elsa said. That will suffice. One more thing, Fräulein. Your attire. I have nothing to wear. You will not wear clothes, Elsa. You will wear armor. There is a jet waiting at the private terminal at London City Airport. Take off at 8 a.m. Pack a small bag. You are flying to Zurich. The Baroness wishes to see you, and the family jewelers need to take your measurements. He was about to hang up. Klaus. Ja. Thank you for not saying, I told you so. It was not necessary, Fräulein. The entire Verlag has been saying it for a decade. Welcome home. We will see you tomorrow. The line cut off. Elsa walked to her laptop. She pulled up the email from Jasper's lawyer, Robert Harrison. It contained the generous settlement waiting for her e-signature. She moved the cursor and pressed Reply All. She typed one sentence. Dear Mr. Harrison, please direct all future correspondence to my lead counsel. Dr. Felix Bowman, at Hamburger, Zurich. I trust you are familiar with the firm." She hit send. She felt the first true breath fill her lungs in 6 months. The mouse was out of the trap, and the lion was awake. Chapter 4. The Zurich Armory. The unmarked, matte gray Gulfstream G500, registered to a shell company in Luxembourg, touched down at the private terminal in Zurich under the pre-dawn fog. Elsa stepped off the plane, not as failed wife Elsa Vance, but as Elsa von Adler, the prodigal granddaughter. Klaus Hildebrand waited on the tarmac, standing beside an armored black S-Class Mercedes, exactly as she remembered him. Tall, immaculate, in a dark gray suit, with a face that looked carved from alpine granite. He took her single suitcase. "Fraulein." The drive was silent. They passed the gleaming, placid surface of Lake Zurich toward the estate, a word that failed to capture the reality. The von Adler compound was a 15th century castle on a private promontory, seamlessly integrated with a high-security subterranean complex of glass and modern steel. It was not a home, it was a headquarters. Her grandmother, Baroness Ottilie von Adler, waited in the grand library. She was an 80-year-old woman, wrapped in a simple, perfectly tailored cashmere dress, her white hair pinned in a severe bun. The only jewelry she wore was a signet ring, the von Adler crest, a gold eagle clutching a key. "Elsa," the Baroness said, her voice like crisp parchment. She didn't rise, merely gestured to a chair opposite her. "You look thin and tired. This American has been a poor custodian of our blood." "Grandmother," Elsa said, sitting down, "I am ashamed. I was a fool." "Yes, you were," Ottilie accepted, taking a sip of tea. "You ran from your responsibilities to play house with a simple bond trader. You traded a dynasty for a penthouse. A very poor exchange. I loved him, or so I thought." "Love," the Baroness scoffed. "Love is a luxury for people who have nothing else. We have responsibility. You forgot it. This mistress, this Serafina, has done us a favor. She has reminded you who you are. She has brought you home." The next few days were not a makeover. They were an arming. First, the lawyers. Dr. Bowman, a sharp man with piercing blue eyes, walked her through the Hamburger team's findings. "Your husband's firm, Vance Capital, is a house of cards, Fräulein," he said, tapping a tablet. "It is leveraged to an astonishing degree. He built it on one risky acquisition, financed by a syndicate of 3 private equity groups. As Herr Hildebrand suspected, the Verlag is the principal silent partner in all 3. Elsa absorbed this. "Then we own him, in essence." Dr. Bowman smiled. "His entire net worth is tied to his firm's valuation, and the main lender for his other extravagances." Here he nodded at a file detailing the lease for Serafina's Mayfair Gallery and the new McLaren Jasper had just purchased. "Is Credit Suisse. As you know, the Baroness sits on their advisory board. This will be straightforward." Next, the wardrobe. This was not a shopping spree. It was a summons. Couturiers from Paris and Milan flew to Zurich. They didn't bring racks. They brought sketches. "No red," the Baroness ordered, dismissing a fiery Valentino gown. "Red is for mistresses and debutantes. You are neither." "No black," she said to a stern Tom Ford. "You are not mourning. You are commanding." They finally settled on a custom creation by a private, almost reclusive Parisian atelier, Stéphane Roland. It was a midnight blue silk velvet masterpiece, almost black in the shadows. It was architecturally severe, with a structured high collar, long sleeves, and a sculpted white cape detail that fell from the shoulders. It was not a dress designed to be sexy. It was a dress designed to be remembered. Finally, the jewels. "He thought you had nothing," the Baroness said, as a jeweler unlocked a vault. "He thought you were a charity case." She opened a worn navy leather box. Inside, resting on faded satin, was a parure of necklace, earrings, and bracelet. "The Von Adler sapphires," Elsa whispered. They were famous Ceylon sapphires, the size of robin's eggs, surrounded by cascades of cut diamonds. They hadn't been seen in public since 1953. "They are heavy," Elsa said, as her grandmother clasped the cold, magnificent weight around her neck. "They are meant to be heavy," the Baroness said, adjusting the center stone. "They are the weight of 500 years. Let them remind you what you fight for. Not a man, child, but a surname." Elsa looked at her reflection. The mouse was gone. The sad, beige wife had vanished. In her place was a woman she barely recognized, cold, powerful, and radiating an authority that had nothing to do with Jasper Vance and his filthy world. Klaus Hildebrand entered the room, a phone in his hand. "The gala board has been informed, Baroness. The chairman, Mr. Davies, sends his deepest apologies for the administrative error that led to Fräulein Elsa's uninvitation. He has rearranged the head table. The Fräulein will sit to his right as the guest of honor for the evening." "And the former seat?" the Baroness asked. "Mr. Vance and his guest have been moved to table 48, next to the kitchen service entrance." A small, cold smile touched the Baroness's lips. "Acceptable." Hildebrand turned to Elsa. "Your Uncle Wilhelm and Cousin Nicholas will meet you at the Ritz. They are eager to lend their support." Nicholas, in particular, seemed outraged by the prenups. He called them creatively insulting. "I am ready," Elsa said. She was no longer weeping wife Elsa Vance. She was Elsa von Adler, and she was going to a party. CTA's break. If this transformation gave you chills, like this video right now. And tell us, what is the single biggest sign that Elsa is about to win the whole war? Chapter 5. The National Gallery. The night of the National Gallery. Grand Charity Gala was a symphony of camera flashes and performative air kisses. The steps of the gallery were a river of haute couture, a chaotic crush of celebrities, tech billionaires, and the old matrons who governed the city. Jasper Vance and Serafina Hayes arrived at 7:30 p.m., the peak hour. Serafina was electric. Her crimson dress was as designed, a spectacle. It was loud, revealing, and left nothing to the imagination. She was winning. She posed with a practiced pout, one hand on Jasper's chest, the other on her hip. The photographers from Hello Magazine and The Spectator devoured it. Jasper Vance, CEO of Vance Capital, and his stunning new muse, gallerist Serafina Hayes, a reporter shouted. "Muse," Serafina whispered to Jasper, thrilled. "I like that." Jasper, immaculate in a Tom Ford tuxedo, looked proud. He felt reborn. This was the life he deserved. He had seen the email from Elsa's lawyer and dismissed it. Hamburger, Zurich was a pathetic bluff, a desperate attempt by his mousy wife to look important. He had been slightly annoyed when the Ritz London had suddenly downgraded his suite due to a plumbing emergency. But Serafina's excitement was infectious. They entered the grand hall, swept past the reception line, and headed toward the majestic room 45 where the gala was being held. The ancient room was bathed in soft amber light, and the masterpieces on the walls seemed to come alive. "Our table," Jasper said, pointing toward the front. "Table 4. But a frantic-looking coordinator with an earpiece intercepted them. "Mr. Vance! Oh, thank heavens! There's been a slight seating adjustment, a last-minute change in our donor hierarchy. We had to relocate you. You're at table 48. 48? Jasper frowned. "That's impossible. My firm is a silver sponsor." "Yes. Well, our platinum and diamond donors, you know. Table 48. It's just over here." Over here was past the main floor, past the minor donors, and into a far corner, practically vibrating from the noise of the kitchen doors swinging open and shut. "This is an insult!" Serafina hissed, her face mottling with rage. "Jasper, fix it!" I'll find the chairman," Jasper stammered, his confidence evaporating. But before he could, a sudden, palpable silence fell over the entrance. The cacophony of the press line outside, which had been dying down, suddenly erupted with a frantic, renewed energy. The music inside seemed far too low. "What is it?" Serafina demanded, craning her neck. "Did Queen Camilla arrive?" It wasn't the Queen. A phalanx of unmarked black S-Class Mercedes with diplomatic plates had pulled up. They weren't the ostentatious Rolls-Royces or Bentleys of the new money tech crowd. They were serious cars for heads of state. The receiving area cleared, and several severe-looking new men formed an impenetrable wedge, and then she stepped out. It was Elsa, but it was not Elsa. This woman was a queen. Her midnight blue velvet gown absorbed the flashes, making her look like a figure from a Sargent painting. Her hair was swept up in a severe, regal chignon, and around her neck, even 50 feet away, the jewels were blinding. The Von Adler sapphires. She was flanked by 2 men. One was older, mid-60s, with a severe, powerful face that screamed old money. This was Baron Wilhelm von Adler. The other was younger, impossibly handsome in a bespoke tuxedo, wearing a bored, aristocratic expression. This was Count Nicholas von Adler. Klaus Hildebrand, a ghost in a perfect suit, followed closely. The gala chairman, Arthur Davies, a man who commanded boards from the Royal Opera House to the BBC, ran to meet them. He did not walk. He ran. "Baron von Adler," Davies said effusively, practically bowing. "What an unimaginable honor. We were not expecting you. We are so grateful." "Arthur," Wilhelm said, his German accent thick and precise. "A pleasure. You know, of course, my cousin, Count Nicholas, and you remember my niece." Davies turned to Elsa, taking her hand, air-kissing above it. "Elsa, my dear Elsa, you look stunning. Absolutely regal. Please, your table is ready. The guest of honor table. Right at the front." Jasper and Serafina were frozen near table 48. Serafina's brain was short-circuiting. Who are they? What is she wearing? She hired those people." But Jasper was white. He was a finance man. He didn't just know the Von Adler name. It was a legend, a ghost. The Verlag, the Von Adler Group. They weren't just rich. They were the bank. They didn't buy companies. They bought countries. And Elsa, his wife Elsa, was one of them. "Jasper," Serafina whispered, pulling at his arm. He felt clammy. "Jasper, what is wrong? Why are you shaking? She looks ridiculous." "Von Adler," Jasper gasped, the name like ash in his mouth. "Her name is Elsa Von Adler. They own my sponsors. Hamburger is their personal law firm. Oh God. Oh my God." He was looking at Elsa, but he was seeing a firing squad. "So what?" Serafina snapped. "It's some dusty old German name. Who cares?" "Serafina," Jasper said. His voice was a terrified whisper. They are everything." Elsa glided past them. She did not look at them. She didn't even glance in their direction. She was a planet, and they were invisible, trembling moons in her orbit. She swept past Table 48, leaving in her wake the scent of a very faint, very old, and very expensive perfume. Not verbena, but something dark and complex, like sandalwood and ancient roses. Serafina watched the woman she had mocked, the ghost beige, being personally escorted to the head table by the most powerful men in London, dripping in jewels that could buy her entire gallery, her entire life, 100 times over. "No," Serafina whispered. Her bravado finally cracked. "No, that's not possible." Jasper simply slumped against the wall. The rhythmic thump, thump, thump of the kitchen door marked the death of his empire. Chapter 6. The public judgment dinner was a blur for Jasper and Serafina. From Table 48, they had a perfect view of the stainless steel kitchen door and the back of a large floral arrangement. They were pariahs. No one spoke to them. The few people who recognized Jasper offered a dry, confused nod before hurrying away. The rumor was spreading. Jasper Vance had catastrophically offended the Von Adlers. Serafina, meanwhile, was on her 5th glass of champagne, her rage and confusion curdling into a toxic, volatile mix. "It's a trick," she kept mumbling, furiously scrolling her phone. "It's a bluff. Von Adler. There's nothing on Instagram, nothing on Hello. They are nobody." "Serafina, shut up," Jasper hissed, his face pale and slick with sweat. "They aren't on Instagram because they own the companies that fund Instagram. They are nobody. They are everyone." His phone was vibrating violently on the table. It was Robert Harrison, his lawyer. He ignored it. It was his lead investor. He ignored it. It was his bank. He ignored it all. Across the hall, Elsa was the picture of grace. She sat between the Lord Mayor of London and Arthur Davies. She spoke little, but when she did, people leaned in. She was captivating. She didn't laugh loudly like Serafina. She smiled, a small, complicit smile that made titans of industry feel like they were being knighted. After the main course, Elsa excused herself. She wanted a moment. She walked toward the center of the grand hall, the magnificent space glowing behind her. She needed a breath of quiet air before the final act. Serafina saw her. "That's it," she snarled, rising to her feet. "Serafina, no. Sit down." Jasper grabbed her arm. "Let go!" She wrenched her arm free, her crimson gown straining. "I am not letting this liar ruin our night. She's faking it. I'm going to expose her." Fueled by champagne and a bottomless pit of narcissistic rage, Serafina strode onto the main floor. The click, click, click of her heels on the marble was sharp, drawing glances. Elsa heard her coming. She turned, her face impassive. "Well, well, Elsa," Serafina sneered, stopping a few feet away. "I'm surprised you showed your face. This is a costume. It's a lovely dress. You rented it. And the jewels, God, the fakes are getting better." Elsa remained perfectly still. She simply looked at Serafina, her gaze quiet, almost pitying. "Serafina, you look very red." The condescending calm was more maddening than any insult. "You think this is funny?" Serafina hissed, closing the distance. "You think you can hire a couple of old actors, rent some jewelry, and scare Jasper? He feels so sorry for you. He was worried you'd do something pathetic, and he was right. Here you are, crashing a party you were kicked out of. I wasn't kicked out, Elsa said, her voice low. My invitation was merely updated. Liar! Serafina was shouting now. People were turning. Look at you! You're probably about to cry, aren't you? Go on, cry. That's what you're good for. You're pathetic. You lost, Elsa. You are nobody. You have no home, no husband, and no power. She was screaming the last part. The music had muffled. The entire gala was watching. Jasper was half running, half stumbling toward them. Serafina, stop! For God's sake, stop! Just as Serafina took a breath to unleash another tirade, Elsa finally spoke, her voice clear and cold, slicing through the silence. Jasper, she said. Jasper froze in his tracks. Elsa continued, her eyes locked on his. Is this the woman you left me for? This loud, artless, and profoundly stupid person? This is your empress. Don't you dare speak to me like that, Serafina shrieked. Oh, I'm not talking to you, Elsa said, dismissing her with a look. I am talking to him. This is none of your business. A grave, accented voice cut in. Wilhelm and Nikolaus von Adler had materialized behind Elsa like two wolves guarding their territory. Serafina, blinded by her own rage, faced them. And who the hell are you, her fake uncles? Get lost, grandpas! Nicholas, her cousin, smiled. It was a terrifyingly charming, utterly cold smile. My name is Count Nikolaus von Adler. This is my uncle, Baron Wilhelm von Adler. And this, he pointed to Elsa, is my cousin, Elsa, Baroness von Adler. Serafina's face went blank. Baroness, you're lying. Wilhelm von Adler ignored Serafina completely and fixed his gaze on Jasper, who looked about to vomit. Mr. Vance, Wilhelm said. Vance Capital, a promising small firm. My family's Verlag Trust holds the controlling interest in your three main sponsors, a fact you would have known had you read the fine print. Jasper was visibly trembling. Baron, I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know. That was the point, Elsa said softly, finally looking at Serafina. I wanted a simple life. I wanted a husband, not a business partner. Furthermore, Wilhelm continued, your primary lender, Credit Suisse, is, shall we say, an old family friend. I took the liberty of making a call this afternoon. Your lines of credit are frozen. Effective 9 a.m. Zurich time. No, Jasper whispered. That's my whole operation. You can't. It's illegal. Nicholas laughed heartily. Illegal? My dear man, this is finance. My uncle merely called in his markers. You are, what is the American term? Over-leveraged. You are bankrupt. You just don't know it yet. Serafina's world was collapsing. Jasper! She screamed. Do something! Tell them you love me! Jasper could not speak. He was staring at Elsa, seeing not his mousy wife, but the heiress to a fortune that could buy and sell his entire world before breakfast. Elsa finally stepped close to Serafina, who looked small for the first time. You mocked me for crying, Elsa said, her voice still quiet, but every person in the hall heard it. You were right. I was weeping. I was weeping because I regretted a man I thought I loved. I was weeping because I thought I had failed, by being small, by being normal. She was inches from Serafina's face. But you are not worth my tears. You are merely an accessory. And you, she turned her icy gaze to Jasper, you are just a bad investment. My family does not tolerate bad investments. You have 48 hours to vacate my cousin's penthouse, Nicholas added, smiling at Jasper's trembling form and Seraphina's stunned, horrified face. Which, by the way, she bought with her own trust. You have been, what is the term? Ah, yes, a kept man. Elsa von Adler turned her back on them both. She did not look back. Wilhelm, Nicholas. Her voice returned to a regal calm. I believe the Flacks are waiting for us at your table. I adore their new collection. As they walked away, Seraphina let out a sound, a half-sob, half-scream of purely animal desperation. She had aimed for ghost beige and instead shot at the sun. And now she and Jasper were left burnt to ashes in the center of the grand hall, totally, publicly, and devastatingly ruined. Epilogue. Extinguished accounts. The aftermath was not a story. It was an autopsy. Jasper Vance did not go home. He could not. His key fobs to the penthouse had been deactivated before he finished his watered-down whiskey at table 48. He spent the night in a text $400 a night room at a sterile chain hotel downtown, still in his wrinkled Tom Ford tuxedo, staring at the ceiling as the distant wail of sirens provided the soundtrack to his ruin. He woke to his phone vibrating on the bedside table with such violence it sounded like an electric drill. It was not one call, but a cascade, a tidal wave of terror. His lawyer, Robert Harrison, was first. Jasper, I resign as counsel effective immediately. What did you do? I just received a letter of inquiry from Hamburger and the SEC. Do not contact this office again. The line cut off. Then the CEO of the private equity group that had funded his first acquisition, a man Jasper golfed with. You're done, Vance. The Von Adlers just called in their notes. We are all seizing your equity. The board has been convened. You're out. You are personally liable for the outstanding notes. You lied on your declaration, you idiot. The last call was from his J.P. Morgan private banker. The man, usually so unctuous, sounded like he was about to weep. Mr. Vance, Jasper, we've received a notice. The collateral on your portfolio has been, well, it's been acquired by the Von Adler Group. Your lines of credit are frozen. All of them. The Centurion card. All of them. I am so sorry. Numb, Jasper went down to the hotel lobby. His tuxedo was rumpled. His face was a ghostly gray. He tried to buy a bottle of water and a coffee. The cashier swiped his Amex Centurion. It beeped. Declined, sir. He tried his Chase Sapphire. Declined. He tried his corporate card. Declined. He stared at the machine. This was the moment. Jasper Vance, founder of Vance Capital, could not buy a slash text, soit $4 bottle of water. He turned and walked away, leaving his cards on the counter. When he finally reached the garage where he had parked his McLaren, the one he bought to impress Seraphina, it was gone. In its place was a grease stain and two men in high-vis vests hooking up a tow truck. Vance? One asked without looking up from his clipboard. Repossession. Order came in at 4 a.m. Sign here. Jasper stood on the pavement in a dirty tuxedo as his text, $300,000 life, drove away. Seraphina's reckoning was in its own way more public. She woke up in her Mayfair flat with a pounding head, convinced it was a nightmare. Then she checked her phone. She didn't look for the Spectator article. She didn't need to. Her Instagram was the epicenter of a nuclear explosion. She had gained $50,000 new followers, and everyone was there to mock her. The Daily Mail headline was brutal. Gala catastrophe. Mistress Seraphina Hayes mocks mystery heiress, who turns out to be a baroness. But it was the meme that truly killed her. It was side by side. On the left, Elsa, serene and regal in her midnight velvet, the Von Adler sapphires gleaming. On the right, Serafina's face contorted in a crimson lipsticked drunken scream. The caption, "When you order a power couple from Wish.com." It was everywhere. Her friends from Chiltern Firehouse had not only unfollowed her, but blocked her. Her gallery website was down. She pulled on sunglasses and a coat and rushed to her space, only to find a heavy-duty chain and a bright orange eviction notice taped to the glass door. Reason: non-payment of rent. Jasper's now frozen line of credit had been guaranteeing her lease. She was a ghost. She was what she had called Elsa, a ghost beige, only painted a desperate, garish red. 3 months later, a former client, a wealthy woman from the affluent Chelsea neighborhood whom Serafina had once slighted, walked onto the main floor of Harrods. She paused at the fragrance counter, needing a refill. "Can I help you?" asked a sales associate. Her voice was dead, her smile a painted grimace. She wore the standard black uniform and a cheap plastic tag that read, "Sarah." The client stared. "Serafina? My God, is that you? Serafina Hayes? The Muse? The Empress?" She held her gaze. The crimson lipstick was gone, replaced by a brand-approved, regulation nude shade. "Yes," she whispered, her throat tight. "Will that be the eau de parfum or the extrait? The Baccarat Rouge 540 is special." Conclusion and call to action, Elsa did not stay in London. She hadn't returned to reclaim her old life. She had returned to exorcise it. She flew back to Zurich. She sat with her grandmother, Baroness Ottilie, in the Grand Library, the same room where she had been admonished weeks earlier. "The banking board meets on Tuesday," the Baroness said, her voice crisp. "Your Uncle Wilhelm has already nominated you for a seat. It is time. You will oversee our North American acquisitions." Elsa looked at the old woman, the matriarch who had commanded armies of capital for 50 years. "No, grandmother," Elsa said, her voice soft but firm. Ottilie's eyebrow arched. "No? You don't want the bank. You don't want acquisitions. That is Wilhelm's world. It is your world. It is not mine. And what is your world, child? More dusty books." "Yes," Elsa said, with a small smile playing on her lips. "Dusty books. The foundation. You have let the Von Adler Philanthropic Foundation lie dormant for too long. It is merely a tax shelter. I want to build it into a force. I want to fund the arts, restoration, and libraries. I want to build things that last, not things that can be frozen with a phone call." The Baroness was silent for a full minute. She looked into the cold fireplace. Finally, she nodded, a look of deep, new respect in her ancient eyes. "You ran from us to find quiet," Ottilie said. "Now you have returned, and you will command quiet. A most worthy choice, wiser than your uncle's." A year later, Elsa Vance was a forgotten name, but Baroness von Adler was mentioned with reverence in the halls of Florence. She wasn't in a glass tower. She was in a 15th-century scriptorium overlooking the Ponte Vecchio, personally directing the Uffizi Gallery's new manuscript restoration initiative. She wore a simple white linen dress, her hair pulled back, her hands smudged with archival pigment. She was happier than she had ever been. Klaus Hildebrand, who had refused to leave her side, entered the sun-drenched room. He looked softer. He even carried a small tray with 2 espressos. "Fräulein," he said, setting them down. A letter arrived. It was sent from the south, from Toledo, Ohio. It has been screened for contaminants. It is from him. He handed her a wrinkled, multi-page airmail envelope. The return address was St. Jude's Rehabilitation Center, Toledo. She opened it. It was 10 pages of Jasper's desperate, looping handwriting. He was in rehab. He was a broken man. He had been a fool, bewitched by Serafina. He had always loved Elsa. Only Elsa. He just needed a little help, a loan, just text, $50,000 for a fresh start, for the sake of what they once had. Elsa read every word slowly, as if it were a historical document. She felt a distant pity, the same pity she felt for the foolish, greedy popes described in the manuscripts she saved, a specimen from a forgotten time. She folded the letter and handed it back to Klaus. "Klaus, please have Dr. Bowman's office in Zurich send a reply." Hildebrand arched a silver eyebrow. "A reply, Baroness?" "Yes," Elsa said. "A standard, formal cease and desist, and include a small donation to the facility on his behalf. Anonymous. Make it text. $100. Let that be his final severance payment." Klaus almost smiled. "As you wish. And the letter?" Elsa turned back to her work, a 15th century text on the folly of greedy kings. The afternoon sun illuminated the gold leaf on the page. "File it," she said, picking up her restoration brush. "Under what heading?" Elsa looked up, the Florentine light catching the simple sapphire studs in her ears. "File it under extinguished accounts, and I'll call to action." And that is how the ghost beige reclaimed her name and her power. This story is a powerful reminder that you never know the true power of the person sitting across from you. The quietest person in the room is often the most dangerous. What Serafina and Jasper saw as weakness was Elsa's choice. A choice to be humble, to be simple. But when they forced her hand, they didn't just lose a fight. They lost the entire war. If you loved this story of shocking twists and righteous vengeance, please like it so. We know to make more content like this. Share this video or article with someone who needs a reminder of their own hidden power. And most importantly, subscribe and turn on all notifications. You won't want to miss the next story we have lined up. You never know whose life is about to change. Thanks for listening.